Balogun commits his future to Arsenal with a new long-term deal. Spotify owner Daniel Ek throws his hat in the ring with 3 Arsenal legends. You're watching She Knows Arsenal, and we are live. Hey guys, you're watching She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessinho. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about Balogun, who has just signed a new long-term deal with Arsenal, securing his future for the long term. And so that's some really, really good news that has come, I think, at a really needed time. After last week's unfolding of the European Super League, I think we were due, some good news coming out of the club. I think we kind of already knew that he was going to sign a long-term contract with Arsenal, but they held the news until this week, which I think was a very good thing, considering if they had thrown that out there in the midst of European Super League, it falling apart, and possibly the Everton game, it would have got lost and it wouldn't have gotten the coverage that it really deserves. For me, Nketiah played well against Everton, but I think we also kind of see his shortcomings. And Balogun signing a new contract, I think, puts Nketiah's future in doubt at Arsenal. Nketiah is somebody who I think is going to have a very good professional footballing career moving forward. Whether that's at Arsenal or not, I do think he's a really good player that suits a particular system, and it's probably not the Arsenal system. Balogun, we've seen very little from, but with the limited time that I have seen him play, I've seen glimpses of something that could be built upon. And ultimately, with the academy players, you give a certain group a certain amount of time, you make a decision on them, and then you move the next group in. So regardless to if we've seen enough of Balogun to really make it a definitive, conclusion about what kind of player he is and how good he'll be in the future, it's now his time and Aziz's time to maybe step into the first team. And Nketiah, Reese Nelson, and Willock have had quite a bit of time in the first team to kind of show what they can give. And I think it's now time to make decisions on those players. Nevertheless, I think this is moving, having Balogun sign a new contract is Arsenal moving in the right direction in terms of administrative, securing the future for the club. And I've always said that the academy is meant to serve the first team in a couple of different ways, whether these players become solidified first team members like Bukayo Saka, or they fill in much needed squad roles like Willock and Reese Nelson and Nketiah have done over the years, or they recoup a fee in the future. That's what we need from the academy. And the only way that we can do that is if we make sure that we sign them up to longer term deals and they don't walk away for free. One thing that I can say about Edu and Arteta is since they've been in charge, they have made it their business to get some of our younger players on longer term contracts so we don't lose them in the future. And, we may question whether or not Arteta is the right man for the job long term. And we may have questions about Edu because maybe Willian is coming under his watch. But that's a good sign for me. That's something that I don't think is it's not a step that we've been taking a lot of the time, like in the past. We've always kind of let these players just go away for free, run down their deals, and we don't get anything for them. So I really think that this is as good as you could have imagined, especially because it's been such a long time coming. It was just a couple months ago where he was being linked with so many different teams and it looked like he was gone. So for him to, turn around and talk about how Arteta was so instrumental in him staying, as well as Bukayo Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe, I think really bodes well for the future. He says, let me see if I can find it here. I take huge inspiration from Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe. Bakayo and Emil have shown me that if you just stick at something for long enough, eventually it'll pay off. I take huge inspiration from them. I thought both of them seemed ready when they were called up each and every time. I thought they definitely prepared, not just physically, but also mentally for the challenges. I think that's something I've learned from them. So he talked about Emil Smith-Rowe and Saka, and I think having good examples of young players coming through the academy and being successful in the first team is good for younger players to see. We're seeing that younger players are leaving Arsenal because they're not sure they're going to actually get the playing time that they maybe feel like they deserve. So if we have good examples of players that have been patient, worked really hard, and finally got their chance, that can only be good for, other players that are coming through the ranks, like Keto Taylor Hart. I know that he has a lot of hype around him. He's somebody that I think is due a new contract, and we're trying to get him signed, and players like Aziz as well. So I couldn't be happier about this, and that it's solidified and it's done. I know a couple weeks ago they had already kind of said that it was going to happen, but just seeing it on the Arsenal website to me is like, yeah, we're moving in the right place. So what do you guys think about Balogun signing a new contract? Let's see. No Limit Yachty says Balogun is going to be great for us. I hope so. I hope so. I try not to have really big expectations of academy players coming through because I'm not sure what the long-term plan is for the club in terms of these players. But again, my only hope is that they serve the first team in one of those three ways, if not a couple. And just getting Balogun signed up to a new contract to me is a step in the right direction. No Limit says Eddie has no future at Arsenal. I just don't think he's Arsenal material. Again, I think Eddie is a good player, but I think he suits a certain system. He's not the type of center forward that can be beneficial to us and build up play. He doesn't play enough, I don't think, to get a good striker's rhythm. A lot of strikers need that rhythm to get going. And because he doesn't play a lot for Arsenal, when he comes in, he doesn't really make that big of a difference, in my opinion. And I just don't think we play the right system for him to thrive in. I can definitely see him at other teams, maybe a Newcastle or Brighton. Both of those teams both need strikers. So maybe in the summer we'll be able to move him on for a decent fee. I would like to see us maybe recoup 15 to 20 million. I don't think we'll get more than that. I know the Brewster deal from Liverpool to Sheffield United has kind of skewed the comps in a way where maybe people are expecting a little bit more because they're both under 21 England internationals, played a similar amount of games. Maybe Eddie's played a couple more. But with the pandemic, I just don't see us getting more than 15 to 20 million. And if West Ham or Brighton offered us that, I think we should bite their hand off for it. He's coming to the end of his contract. He will be within 12 months of the end of his contract in the summer. So if we want to recoup anything from Eddie and get a kind of a return on investment, we've invested time and resources on Eddie. They think they brought him in at 15 years old from Chelsea, and he's gotten quite a bit of time in the first team over some big name players as well, over Lacazette, over Martinelli as well. So I think at this point it's time to move on from him. But that being said, I do think that he'll have a good career somewhere where the system suits him a little bit better. OB says the signs from his few senior cameos are really good. Yeah, you can see that there's talent there. And if the club spent about a year trying to convince this kid to stay, then I'm sure behind the scenes there's a consensus that the kid has talent. You don't spend a year trying to convince somebody to stay and sign a new deal if they're no good, So I think he does have talent. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the Balogun, know-it-all. I know everything about him. I don't. But I do agree with you from the signs that we saw in the Europa League. I mean, he came straight in and scored a goal, and he looks really hungry. And I think we need players that have something to fight for, and he's one of those types of players. Aaron says Balogun looks the better striker compared to Eddie, deserves more game time, especially this season or next season. I don't know who I would think is better because I think they're completely different. But I do think it's time to move from Eddie and give Martinelli and Balogun time to develop. Let's see. Philosophax says nobody can say that Balogun is going to make it for sure, but as you said, not nailing those players down hurt us in the past. Very good signing, exactly. I'm not sure if it happened or not, but they were trying to get Emil Smith-Rowe signed up to a new contract. We know Martinelli signed a long-term contract, as well as Bukayo Saka around the time that Arteta's been manager at Arsenal. So I think he understands that it's important for the future of the club, especially if we're going to have the same owners, to look in our academy for, gems, for players that can fill in squad roles or become first team players or recoup cash so that we can buy players in the market. So I think there was a quote from Arteta not too long ago when he was talking about Balogun that when they're looking for new players, that it's their duty to look first in the academy and see if there's a player in there that would fit. And he understands that that's a big part of the fabric of Arsenal, that we've always developed our own talent. And we veered away from that in recent times. Seeing, Maitland-Niles and Iwobi being pretty much the only players in and around the first team for a certain amount of time, to me was strange because up until that point we had been really producing. And I remember when Iwobi came through, there was you guys will remind me of his name, but Chuba Akpom, he was here, as well as Jeffrey Adelaide, and they both left for first team minutes that, give or take, they may not have really gotten exactly what they wanted, but they did leave the club to get minutes. And you'll have that every once in a while, but I think if Arteta maybe had been the coach at the time, you may have seen players like that stick around for a little bit longer because they would have seen clear paths to the first team. When we were switching over from Arsene to Unai and Raul was in and around the mix, I think some players they fell through the cracks. I really do. I don't think that there was a big emphasis on trying to make sure that we kept a good eye on the academy and we were moving these players forward. And I think it's so important for us to have successful examples of players getting into the first team, getting minutes, and whether they stay at Arsenal, they're able to cultivate a successful career for themselves. We Show Football says, who do you see as our center forward options next season? Aubameyang, Balogun, Martinelli, or someone else? I think it depends on funds, to be honest. Part of me says, okay, if you have Aubameyang, Balogun, and Martinelli, is that enough? If something happens to Aubameyang, can we count on Balogun and Martinelli to score the goals? I also think that we're moving away from a system that is heavily reliant on our center forward scoring so many goals, because that's not sustainable. If they get hurt or they go through a dry spell, we're vulnerable. And we've seen that this season. So I think it depends on the funds. If I have to be honest with you, I don't think center forward is our most important position to recruit for this summer. I would almost be okay with going with Aubameyang, Balogun, and Martinelli if we were able to improve the right back situation, figure out what's going on with right center back, bring in a couple midfielders, because that's really what we need. I have a lot of faith in Martinelli that if he gets a good run of games, he will score goals for us. But is he a 20 to 30 goals a season striker? Probably not at this point, but do we actually need that? Can we build a system where Saka's scoring goals, Pepe's scoring goals? It's the goals are being spread around so that there isn't this emphasis on needing to have this striker that scores all of our goals. Let's see. Sean says, I'm glad Balogun is signed. I'm just wary of another manager comes and all Arteta's plans for the youth will be shelved. So you're saying if Arteta leaves? Yeah, I'm not sure if that would be something that I'm worried about at the moment, because I don't think that Arteta is going anywhere. To be quite honest, I don't see it. So I'm not too worried about that at the moment. I think he'll be here long enough so that we don't have to worry about it right now. Alexander says, Jess, should Balogun go on loan next season? We'll need sign a striker in the summer. If Balogun does go on loan, Arteta didn't he didn't completely shove that idea away. When he was asked would Balogun go on loan, he did say that he kept the door kind of open and said that let's get him signed up first and then we'll decide what to do with him. And I think him being at Arsenal next season or being out on loan will really depend on what happens with the funds and if we actually need to bring in a striker. If Arteta were to decide to keep Lacazette, I would think that Balogun would go out on loan because he's been promised first team football. Did they say first team football at Arsenal? No, so I'm not 100% sure, if he would go out on loan or not. Give me 1 second, you guys. This is kind of an important phone call that I need to. I'm sorry. But I have to answer this. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay. So, yeah, I think it just depends on whether we keep Lacazette and what the funds look like. But if he does go out on loan, that would fall under the criteria of first team football, wouldn't it? Let's see. What are you guys saying? Static says, "Hey Jess, it's good. This is good news. Unfortunately, this is another PR move as I am still waiting to see Balogun play more games. He's been promised first team football, so he wouldn't have signed his life away if he didn't get guarantees from the club. And I don't necessarily feel like he needs to play now. If for some reason we were to be mathematically in a position where we couldn't qualify for Europa League through the league and we weren't in the Europa League anymore, I still don't see Arteta playing a weak side or play a heavily rotated side. I just don't see it. And I think Arteta respects the process and respects the hierarchy of the team. So as long as Eddie's here, I think he'll come in before Balogun no matter what, unless they fall out between now and the end of the season. But I don't think it's necessarily a PR move. I think it was put out in a time where it could bring the morale up for the fan base. It was a good time to say that he had signed the contract today. But I don't necessarily feel like signing a young player from the academy is a PR move per se. And he's been given guarantees, and you can't really go back on that. No Limit says, if Eddie ever improved his game, he needs to watch strikers like Inzaghi and Chicharito Hernandez. He plays similar to them. That's interesting. I know Chicharito's doing good in the MLS. Last couple games, he's been doing well. But yeah, I think if he wants to be better, he has some things that he might need to work on. I think his first touch, it leaves a little bit to be desired, and he can't be asked to do more than one thing. I think Eddie is one of those strikers that you just have to say, just poach. I don't think he has the ability to play more similarly to Lacazette. I think he did an okay job at that over the weekend, but what ended up happening is that because he was trying to come back and be a part of buildup, he was non-existent in the box. And that's what's really difficult, is when you're being asked to not only drop deep and be a false nine and also score goals. It's really difficult, especially for a young player. So there's definitely some things that he would need to work on, but for some reason, I don't think he'll be working on those things at Arsenal. Let's see. You guys, good morning, good afternoon. Balogun sign, Eddie doesn't need a shirt going forward. I mean, yeah. I mean, for the rest of the season, I still see Eddie. If Lacazette and Aubameyang are not available, Eddie will start. That's just how I think Arteta respects the process. It respects the hierarchy, but I think we should sell him, over the summer, move on. Let's see. I saw, what do you see for Reese Nelson's future? Personally, I really think Reese Nelson made a huge mistake not taking the loan that was offered to him. He rejected taking a loan, I think, over the January transfer window, and he suffered for it ever since. As a young player that's not really developed to the point where you can't even get above Willian in in the game day squads and things like that. I really think you need time and you need to go play. Look what it's done for Willock and even Ainsley Maitland-Niles to a certain extent. If the club says in order for you to play for Arsenal Football Club, you need to go on a loan, then you need to go on a loan. I know that, some people will probably say that it's probably because he wants to play for Arsenal and he wants to try to fight for his position. But when the club is recommending something that's best for you, you'd have to take it regardless to if that's actually what you want to do at the moment. And I really think it was risky. And I don't think it definitely hasn't helped him because he hasn't played. He's made a couple of game day squads because of a lot of injuries, but he hasn't played. So I think we will have a hard time selling him because not enough people have seen him. I don't even think we really know what Reese Nelson's best position is. He plays as a winger, but he strikes me more as like an inside forward or more of even like a 10. I don't think he hasn't developed enough for a 21-year-old. So I see him out on a loan, maybe to somebody like a Norwich or a Brentford or something like that. I know there's like Olympiacos and some other teams that were, a little bit further away were interested in him, but I'm not sure if he has kind of like a want to be closer to home, but he has to take the loan that's going to give him the best chance to develop because he just hasn't developed enough in his time at Arsenal. So I think he'll end up on a loan, to be honest. Well, this is a good question. What do you think about rumors of Newcastle signing Willock permanently for 20 million? If we got 20 million for Joe Willock, I would bite your hand off for it. I think the best possible scenario for us would be from Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Willock, and Nketiah getting something around 50 million. And I know that's probably like, well, we should probably get more. Well, we're in a pandemic and we're desperate. So, and these players need to be moved on. I think that would be the best case scenario. Willock looks really happy at Newcastle. He looks comfortable. I think players want to feel important. When I used to play, one of my biggest things was I want to be on a team where I feel important. Maybe it's not the best team, but a team where I get to play and I'm important on this team. The coach counts on me. And it seems like Willock really has the buy-in of Newcastle, the team, and the coach. And he just looks so happy. And I couldn't be happier for him. If that's where he wants to be, then let's make it happen. 20 million for Joseph Willock is perfect. So if they offered us that, I would take it. Wouldn't think twice. So you guys, I also wanted to, you guys don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and it's all because you guys continue to watch these shows and give me great suggestions and share my content with other people. So let's just keep the ball rolling. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. But the next thing that I want to talk about is the potential takeover bid that's supposedly supposed to be coming within the next couple of hours. That's what's being reported by different people from Daniel Ek. And he's supposedly got into some sort of consortium with Arsenal legends Henry, Vieira, and Dennis Bergkamp to put together this takeover bid. Obviously, we know that thousands of fans protested outside the Emirates, calling for the owners to sell up their shares in response. And in the midst of all of that, Daniel Ek, who is one of the owners of Spotify, came out and told us that he has been supporting Arsenal for his entire life. And if Stan Kroenke was open to selling, he would throw his hat in the ring. He has 3.4 billion euros of wealth, but that doesn't really mean anything. And supposedly he's gotten, together with our Arsenal legends and to try to make this happen. I think that this is something that I would love to see happen. My Arsenal heart is saying, wow, like, wouldn't it be amazing to have 3 Arsenal legends and a young tech owner involved in Arsenal at a time where it just seems like the dinosaurs are ruining the game? Of course. And it's just like that binary of people that love the club versus people that don't care about it. People, you know, a young, fresh owner versus like this old dinosaur. So the grass always is going to feel like it's greener when we have Stan Kroenke as the owner of Arsenal. We have no idea what Daniel Ek would be like as an owner. We also don't know what the Invincibles, you know, Bergkamp, Vieira, and Henry would be like. But, you know, of course, my heart is like beating and thinking, wow, wouldn't that be amazing? You start to imagine what the club would be like under, you know, those four essentially. And I'm sure that if they were anywhere near the club, especially our Invincibles, they would want us to become great again. But my only thing is, you know, my brain is saying the Cronkies have absolutely no reason to sell this club, and the global brand and the value of the club is continuing to grow, even though the money that they're making is not the same. They can forecast what the value of the club will be in the next couple of years, and I think that is what's driving them to keep the club. They've never sold any one of their sports franchises, and they've said multiple times that they don't want to sell. I don't expect them to come out and say, yeah, we're selling. I don't, but I just don't see them having a reason to sell. And I think it would take a lot from this group to get them to consider it. AK Gunner is saying credible sources say Takeover Bid is immediate 8.5 billion. I would love to see it, you guys. I would love to see it, but my brain is not letting me get overly excited about it because I need to see it to believe it. This is a very opportunistic time for journalists to come out with a story like this, playing on the heartstrings of Arsenal fans, knowing that we would gobble this up. You know, if we knew that, I mean, Bergkamp, Henry, Vieira, I mean, that's really, I mean, if, you know, honestly, I would probably take it more serious if it was Flamini, because he is a tech billionaire and maybe he would be interested in something like this. But it just seems almost too good to be true, to be honest. And I need to see more evidence of it. I'm not saying that it wouldn't ever happen, or because I don't know what will happen in the future. I'm sure there's a lot of things that we never thought would happen that have happened over whatever amount of time that you've been on this earth. But right now, I just don't see them having a reason to sell. This sounds so too good to be true. I mean, do you guys feel the same way? Do you think that this could happen? I'm not sure. Giant Gooner, if you don't follow him, you really should. If he hasn't put it out already, he will in a couple of hours. His ideas about Daniel Ek and his ability to maybe push through a potential takeover. And he's a very astute, you know, well-informed financial, I don't want to call him a guru and say that, but he's really good, you know, with combing through numbers and figuring out the legitimacy of the financial situation at Arsenal. So he should have put it up by now. Let me actually check because I'm actually on Twitter now. So let me see if he put it out, because as soon as I get off of here, I'm going to look at it. Let's see. Yeah, I think he has put it out in kind of like a thread already. Yeah. He says, well, it's 3 days to one of the most exciting times of the season for Arsenal, and my timeline is 100% focused on a takeover that has 1% chance of happening good times. Yeah, so he did write about it. Basically, he doesn't think it will happen, and I'm kind of in the same boat here. But we do know that the protests are going to continue to happen. I think there's supposed to be one on May 8th. And I could have thought I saw one on like May 3rd or May 2nd or something like that as well. So the protests will continue on. I hope that people that have good ideas about how to at least push through reform with the Premier League and with the ownership and things like that will get in contact with AST and the people amongst the fan base that actually try to get things done. If they have good ideas, push them through to the people that could help change. I do think change can happen. I'm just not sure if them selling is really the change that we're going to see. Osmond says, Jess, I hope EK doesn't try to hire one of the three to be our manager. I think about that too. Like, I love Thierry Henry. Of course, I love VIEIRA, but their management hasn't been amazing since they've become coaches / managers. So I definitely wouldn't want them coaching Arsenal, but again, I think that this is just a really opportunistic time to pull on the heartstrings of Arsenal fans because we're so needing a light at the end of the tunnel almost, HB says, hey, I finally made a stream, came through, diluted, great stuff, and a different knowledgeable insight. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming down. I really appreciate it. Okay, Yo-Yo has a question. Yo-Yo says, what do you make of the differing reactions to the Americanization of the sport? The Premier League, Hall of Fame inductees, and proposed Super League. I don't know. I think I've been kind of clear on the Super League thing. Of course, I think there's going to be differing reactions to the Super League based on what you think. I mean, if you guys were on my stream a couple of, probably at the beginning of last week, I spoke to the guys from the Tucci Gooners, and they were actually in favor of the Super League. So I think the loudest voices in the room were the ones that didn't want it. And then there was a silent, maybe minority that actually wanted it to go through because they wanted to see Arsenal in and amongst the best teams in the world. The Americanization of the sport in general, I just think is a bad idea. I just think there's certain cultural elements of football that you can't, if you dumb it down and Americanize it, it just won't feel the same. And I personally don't want to see an NFL type, or NBA type of football. If they want to do that, then just invest more into the MLS because the clubs and the culture traditions are just too deep rooted to change for me. I think there needs to be reform in terms of, the Premier League and overall UEFA. I do think things could change in that way, but to just allow the owners to just come in and kind of do whatever they want, the McDonaldization of everything, I just think would be really detrimental to world football, and it would change everything about the way that we know it. But this has been a slow progression. Once you allow billionaires in the room, you're allowing these things to take place. So I think it's knowing who is in and amongst you is important, and knowing what they're all about. If we had looked back into the history of KSE, FSG, and the Glazers, you would see that this has probably been a long-term plan anyway. And we would have had reforms in place to make sure that they weren't able to even try to put together a Super League, but we didn't do that, so now reform needs to take place. And you said the Hall of Fame inductees. I'm out of the loop here. Who was inducted was, I know that they were thinking, who was it? I saw something about this, but just remind me of it. Tell me what happened. Oh, you just finished a uni exam. How cute. I love that. Did you get an A? Did you think you aced it? Let me know. When I was in school, just full disclosure, you guys, I wasn't great in school. I'm smart, but nah, I wasn't a big school person. So this is what I was thinking about. It was Shearer and Henry, but I think originally it was supposed to be Giggs, but because of the things happening with him, it didn't go through. But yeah, I think those make sense to me. I mean, do you guys feel like that's not right? I think Henry, obviously, to me, the way that I think about him is people are going to break his records. They are. It's already happening now. They're getting close to it or beating his records. But the fans that have been watching football for a while will know that there are certain players that are just iconic in the game, not because of what they won, not because of the numbers that they put up, but because of the way that you felt when you watched them play. And you knew that they were special just by watching them play the game. Henri's one of those people. I would say Ronaldinho is probably another one. Original Ronaldo is another one. These types of players, they won big things. They may not win as much as maybe like an Aguero, right? But they did win things. The records will be broken, but you'll never forget like the first time that you saw them play and how you felt. And Henri is so iconic because of the style in which he did things that you would never be able to replicate. No matter how many players come out, wear the number 14, they will never have the same flair and style and devastation that Henri had on that field. And you were mesmerized by the way that he played. He's an iconic player for a reason. And it's not, I mean, the numbers are there, the trophies are there, but it's really about the way you felt when you watched them. So I think Henri is just one of those. He's so iconic in so many different ways, and he's an inspiration to a lot of the players that we watch now, that we know and love. And the style in which he did things is probably the reason why I look at him differently than somebody like Aguero. Aguero has the numbers behind him, and he's a great, great player and has been for a long, long time. But I don't feel the same way when I watch him as the way I felt when Henri. I felt like I was learning something for the first time and experiencing something that I needed to like keep safe in my memory, because I was like, I'm never going to see this again. And we've never seen it again because he's special, So, and Shearer, obviously, historical figure, a really, really good striker. I think criminally underrated because he didn't play for a team that, was like overly successful. But I like Alan Shearer. I always hated when we had to play against him. And to me, he's just kind of like an old school type of striker that you knew was dangerous, but wasn't super athletic or anything like that. So I like the two inductees. But yeah, I did see something about it was supposed to be Giggs and not Henri, but because of all the drama with him, his legal battles and things like that, it was never going to happen. But nevertheless, Henri was always supposed to be inducted in the Premier League Hall of Fame. We'll never see a player like him. So I couldn't be any more happy. Let's see. Not Origi. Velvishwan, why you come with the madness? Should have been in the Hall of Fame. Come on now. Yo-Yo says, the few artists and magicians of the beautiful game. Exactly. There's just certain players that are just special beyond the numbers, and their records will be beaten, and I think maybe that's the difference between Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo works really, really hard, and he tries to stay at the top end of his game, but you don't, besides like the earlier years of him at Manchester United, I never really got that same feeling that I got watching Messi, because it felt special. And I can't really define it. It's not a tangible thing that I can really, but if you watch football, you know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that there's just certain players that are more special than others, and it's beyond the numbers and statistics and trophies. And Henri is definitely one of them. Fabrice says Henri is his favorite player. Amazing. Yeah, he's one, obviously it's like he's one of the, I have favorite players and he's not one of them, but I love him nonetheless. Like, I'm going to go watch an old game of Thierry Henry playing. Now I'm sad. Bowie the Cat says Shearer is the leading Premier League goal scorer by a long way. Right. Yeah, he is. And still criminally underrated in a way. Like, they don't talk about him, and maybe because he didn't play for like Manchester United or Liverpool or whatever in those times. Like, those are the teams that he played for to get the accolades or whatever. But I liked how dedicated he was to Newcastle. I thought that was pretty cool. And I hated playing against him. I hated when we had to play against him because the goal was coming. It was always coming. Karumi says, what is the situation with Balogun? He signed a deal to play in under 23s. What about the first team? No, he's going to play in the first team. He's been guaranteed first team football. So that will either come with Arsenal or that will come with a loan to a team where he's going to be playing first team football. He hasn't signed a deal to play in the under 23s. That's not happening. Sean says Messi, for example, has numbers as well as being special. Exactly. And Jamie says Messi born with talent, Cristiano worked on his art. And it just, you can be great in both ways. So I'm not taking anything away from Cristiano Ronaldo. I love his work rate. I love it. And there's not a lot of players that can keep up with the game throughout the years without any sort of drop off. And it just seems like he gets better and better. Very clinical. And it's not about the way he does things. I think it's about the clinical aspect of the way that he plays. His numbers are up there. But when Messi plays, it really is like the beautiful game, the way that we know it. And he also has the numbers. So I can understand if you liked either one or you preferred one over the other. It just depends on how you view things. Sean says, Jess, who is your top 5 players? Ronaldinho is always number one. That's why, my Twitter handle is @ItchJessinho. I'm not Brazilian in any way, but Ronaldinho is my favorite player of all time. Then it gets more difficult from there. Robert Pires, Patrick Vieira, for sure, are 2 of my favorites of all time. Oof. I want to say Michael Essien as well. I think he was really, really good for Chelsea. Unfortunately, I know that's going to sound bad, but he was one of my favorite players. And I'm going to say, it's so difficult because that's 4, and I really could give anybody else that 5. Let me get back to you guys on that one. I want to say Cesc, but then I also want to say Santee. So, but yeah. But see, this is the thing. You guys are saying Henry. Your favorite players are not necessarily the best players. Do you know what I'm saying? So when you're choosing your personal favorites, they're not always the better player. It's just who you connected with. Again, Henry is Henry. Like, he's special and I love him. I'm an Arsenal fan. I'm obsessed with him. But I connect so much with Vieira and Robert Pires, so those are my favorite players. And so it's not really about who is the best players. It's who I connected with. So yeah, I would definitely say Michael Essien, Robert Pires, Patrick Vieira, Ronaldinho, and I'm going to say Brandi Chastain. Obviously, she's a U.S. women's national team player. I'm going to actually give it to her because I met her a couple times. I went to her soccer camp when I was younger, and she's obviously iconic for taking off the shirt, and the sports bra was showing when they won. And yeah, so, but I mean, you asked me that in a couple hours and I'd probably say Santee or Cesc or somebody, because there's so many good players out there. Oof. Like, even that's just the names that you guys have that you guys are putting in the chat box. I mean, Seedorf, Iniesta, Modric. Okay, so you want me to rank these 1 through 3? Iniesta, Seedorf, Modric. Don't kill me. It's so difficult. It's so difficult because these players are all so good. Osman says, top 5 I've seen. Original Ronaldo, pre-injury, Messi, Rivaldo, Zidane, and Ronaldinho. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so many players that you could name. Yeah, R9 for sure, pre-injury, Rivaldo, yeah. And I like the Brazilian national team so much, especially the one that Ronaldinho played in with R9 and Robinho and Roberto Carlos and that particular team. So I love Brazilian players. I that's why I'm like, Adu, please do us proud. Gilberto is another one of probably my top 10 favorite players. So yeah, I'm glad that we have that link. I'm hoping that it works for us, that we could get some young Brazilian talent at Arsenal, kind of like how we've already did with Gabby. I see Bettner on here. Glenn says, how high is Bettner on your list? I don't even know who that guy is. No, Bettner, I never liked that guy. Pirlo, Xavi, or Cruz. This is so hard, you guys. Why are you guys putting me on the spot? Okay, so my gut is saying Xavi. Pirlo, Cruz. That's so difficult. Okay. But no more of these games. I don't like them because I don't know. It just puts me on the spot. So Glenn says his favorite or his top 3 are Henry, Ronaldinho, and Rooney. Yeah, Rooney is one that if I couldn't stand you when you were playing, it was probably because I knew you were going to score on us. I always really thought Rooney was. It's not that he was so technically gifted or anything, but you make up for that with tenaciousness and just like go power. And he was one of those for sure. He just would keep going, and you knew the goal was coming with him as well. So he's one of those that I love to hate from Manchester United for sure. Yep. All right, you guys, we're going to stop it there for today. At 6 p.m. UK time, me and DJ Harry will be back here. So in this exact place on my YouTube channel to talk about more Arsenal news. And we're going to do kind of like a post-match show, but it's really not going to be that because that Everton game was so dead. So we'll talk about a little bit about the Everton game. We'll talk about anything else that comes up. I'll get his ideas on how he felt about the Super League and Kroenke selling and all this kind of stuff, the protesting. And just to give you guys a heads up, I will be going dark on my social media, including here on Friday in solidarity with the Premier League and all the other organizations that are doing the blackout for the Say No to Racism campaign. So I'm just letting you guys know that you guys won't see any post-match, anything post-match for VIEIRA game, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, because it's for a good cause, but it'll just be the instant reaction immediately after the game, and then I'll be going dark. But yeah, make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys at 6 p.m. right here with DJ Harry. Bye, guys.